Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Ericka Sallee of True Synergy. Welcome back to my channel. You know, True Synergy is a personal coaching and professional development company where I help women and organizations figure out what stands in the way of them achieving their success. And so, if you want to continue to hear more conversations like these, as well as the strategies to move you beyond those barriers, then I do encourage you to subscribe to this channel. Go ahead and share it out and then turn the notifications on so that you are in the know when new videos are uploaded. So the topic for today is do you. Do you. How many times have we gone to conferences or we've attended a class or a training event and we get a specific set of instructions on how to do something? And we walk away and we go back and we say, okay, here is how I'm going to apply it. And that's exactly what we should do. Like, it doesn't do us any good to invest time, money, energy into learning something new, gaining new information, and then we come back and just let it sit on the shelf, because transformation doesn't happen that way. But here's the problem that I found for myself. And that is, sometimes when we walk away with that information, we are tunnel focus, or we have tunnel vision, and we have a narrow focus about how we should apply that to our particular lives, our situations, and what we want to do next with that information. Here's an example. So I've gone to lots of conferences. I have worked with my own coaches, and one of the things that I know has been impressed upon us as business owners is to be sure to sit down and schedule out your social media calendar, especially if you're avidly using Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and there's so many others that are probably out there that I'm not even sure about, but those are the ones that for me, I kind of think about that. So sit down and think about your social media calendar for the month. Now this is an experience that I've had, and so I'm like, okay, sit down and think about my social media calendar for the month. So I set up a system to do that. I have different tabs within a spreadsheet. Yes, I use a spreadsheet. There are other tools that are out there that can automate some things. I personally wanted to use the spreadsheet because I'm like, okay, this is how I ease myself into this process of having a system in place for my social media posts. And so every single month I'd set up the tab and I'd sit down on Sunday evenings to focus on, well, what am I going to post throughout the week? And can I tell you that for a while I was like, okay, I'm in this rhythm. And then I got to a point where I felt like I was hitting a brick wall. And I would sit down and I would look at my spreadsheet and I would say to myself, okay, what are the themes? What are the things that I want to say? What are the things I want to communicate, and trying to pull all this stuff together? And I kept getting frustrated because there were times when I would sit there and my spreadsheet would be blank. And I would start to get nervous and I would start to say, oh my gosh, what is wrong with me? Why can't I seem to get my thoughts together? And why can't I put this particular practice in place? What is going on? And then I started to doubt and question my creativity and my messaging and what am I saying, what am I doing? And then it hit me that really what I was doing was trying to force myself into a process that did not necessarily work for me. Now let me say that again. I was trying to force myself into a process that did not necessarily work for me. So here's what I'm saying. I absolutely know for sure that one of my goals each and every week is to, yes, post on my social media outlets, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. But here's the thing that I had to recognize about myself, and this is what I want you to get and think about, how do I need to get in contact or connect with what it is that works for me so that you can do you. What I realized was that in the moments where I was trying to force my thoughts to think about a specific thing for a period of time, that's where I struggled. But where it felt easier for me was where I would allow my thoughts and my ideas to come organically. Now, yes, I know that on Sunday, I'm planning out my schedule for the week. That's my process. But what I had to recognize was that through the course of the week, there were things that I would see or that I would hear or that I would experience that were just natural connectors for me to then send a message using that experience. And so sometimes I had to just allow myself to just be in this organic space and let the ideas come as I was experiencing things happening. So here's an example of that. I walk at the park, especially when the weather is nice. That's part of my exercise routine. When the weather gets colder, I do things indoors. But so I walk in the morning, and there were times when I would see different things, or as I was walking, I would have different ideas, or I would have a divine connection of something that I would then relay out to my social media followers. And to me, that felt very natural because it wasn't forced. Sitting down and saying, okay, what am I going to communicate through the week, through the month? That was a bit exhausting for me. And it really caused me to feel very, very anxious and frustrated because it just wouldn't come as I thought it would. But it was in the moments when I was either having conversation with people or I was doing my own prayer, reflection, meditation, that I would get ideas and they would flow very naturally. And for me, that worked. And so what that did was it took the pressure off of me from, okay, I know this is what I heard, this is what I learned, that I should, sit down and have this focus, have this theme, have this mapped out for the entire week, for the entire month. And while I tried to do that for a while, I realized that that really wasn't the method that worked for me. Yes, the goal was still to make sure that I posted, but I wanted them to be more organic, more connected and authentic. And so that was an adjustment that I needed to make. So you might be saying to yourself, oh my gosh, I heard this message and I have to do it exactly this way. And you might recognize that for you, you may have to tweak that a little bit. Even from a coaching perspective, I love to be able to share different strategies with my clients. But I also try to present it in a way where they can consider a variable of options. They can mix and match and they can massage those strategies and string together a couple of different strategies to make it work for them. And so a lot of times what becomes the barrier is when we hear something, we learn something, and we say, oh my gosh, I've got to do it exactly this way or else it's not going to work. Now, there are some things where you do have to do step by step by step. The first thing that comes to mind is a recipe. If you're making a recipe, a lot of times when I make a recipe for the first time, I'm like, yep, I got to do it exactly the way the recipe says because I want to make sure that it turns out the right way. But then over time, what you may realize is that you can adjust that to your liking, to your taste, to your preference. This is sort of like that. And so we have to recognize that in order for us to create the best version of ourselves, to transform into what looks like, feels like it's good for us, we may have to adjust. And as we learn things and take in new information, we can decide, okay, here's how I can use this, or I can use this piece. I may not need this piece right now. I can move this piece with this piece over here, put it together, and make it collectively work for me. And that's the thing that helps us to then move to the next, when we can take what we've learned, what we've heard, and make it authentically our own. So that's just something that I think we can all be mindful of, because I think it puts pressure on us when we try to be into this cookie cutter space. And we take different pieces of what works for us. Sometimes you can have 10 people sitting in a room listening to the exact same thing. And one person may hear one nugget and say, okay, that's what I need, that's what I'll take. And the rest of what they heard may not apply or may not work for them. Another person in the room may hear the entire conversation or learn the new concept or whatever's being presented and say, oh my gosh, I need to use all of that. And then somebody else may say, well, you know what? Out of the 10 things that I heard, I'm going to take these 3 and I'm going to start with those. And then I'm going to come back and maybe see how the other things fit in. So it's really up to you to craft what works for you so that you can do you. And here's the final thing that I'll say is that when we think about it from that perspective, it helps us to then remember that transformation begins when we break those barriers that keep us from operating in the true essence, our true energy, true synergy of who we were created to be. Yes, true energy too. But that's the reality. And so taking that pressure off of ourselves to say, I've got to do it just like this, is a way of removing a barrier. Because if we get stuck, let's say for instance, if I had continued to sit down every week and say, oh my gosh, like why can't I process this? Why can't I think? Why can't I be creative? That would have been a barrier, and perhaps I would not have even posted, because I would have been saying, well, I don't have anything to post. But I had to be connected with, oh, wait a minute, this is what feels right, and this is how it works for me. And that was me moving my own block out of the way so that I could move forward and meet one of the goals that I set for myself. So on that note, I want you to know this, that if you hear this conversation and you say, okay, there's something more that I think I might need, or I have a question, or I want to know how what you just said pertains to me, because I have some other things that I'm trying to figure out and I'm not sure where to start, what to do, where to go, how to move forward, then I want you to feel free to visit my website, truesynergy.org. That's TRUSYNERGY.org. There is an option for you to contact me. So if you say, hey, I just want to get some more information, I want to talk to you about some things that are going on in my space and how you can possibly support, then yes, I do encourage you to reach out to me. Let's have a 30 to 45 minute discovery session. It only costs you that amount of time so that we can figure out, hey, what's going on, and what are the things that you want to do to be the barrier breaker so that you can get to your true synergy. Then let's have that conversation. I look forward to that. And I also look forward to seeing you again real soon. Until I do, take care and be well.